Hitman 2-3, this is Hitman 2. What's the status, over?
All right, so here we go. Number 2, 28 April. The girls are back. Wave to the camera, Maria.
Oh, hi.
Yeah. So the girls are back from downtown. And so I'm curious, Sergeant Major, how did you and Maria meet? Tell us a story.
It's a funny story. We met a couple times, actually. First off, I got orders for Vietnam. All of us people, my two roommates got orders for Vietnam at the same time. George Vargas and Jack Lash. One day we're sitting around the room playing cards and doing whatever. And George was Puerto Rican, says, "You gotta get a suit yet?" I said, "George, what do you need a suit for?" "I got Class A's." Says, "You gotta give your mother a suit so that they have something to bury you in when you get killed in Vietnam." I said, "Makes sense to me." "I bought my suit yesterday," he said. He went over to his locker, he pulled it out, proud as hell.
Looked good, didn't it?
He's Puerto Rican, he proud of his clothes. George was a meticulous guy. Every hair in place. He said, "I bought this suit at the Oxford shop down on Hay Street." I said, the light bulb went off. Ding! I caught a bus the next day down to Hay Street, found the Oxford shop, walked in front of it, and they grabbed me and snatched me out of the street and pulled me in the store. "You look like you want to buy a suit." As a matter of fact, I do. And he said, "You want this, you want that, you want this." I eventually settled on double-breasted something or other.
Yeah, I like those.
And go in there and get them to measure you up, your inseams and stuff. You see the suit's a little long for you. "Anna, fix this guy up."
Anna Marie.
Yeah. I went in there and there was this
Hot babe.
hot 18, 19-year-old girl.
She was hot. Still is.
Yes. And she was way out of my league. Way out of my league.
Okay. She was a looker.
Yes.
Okay. Still is.
Yes. And I bought the suit.
Well, tell us about the inseams. Maria was feeling your inseams or something like that. I don't know how you explained it.
Measuring.
Measuring. That's the word that you use so that there's nothing filed against you in a court of law.
She had a piece of chalk.
I was measuring
marked it with chalk.
She was marking it with your chalk. That is so sick. I mean,
Oh,
you were marking
you're
it.
You're not recording that.
You were not. You were marking it. You were measuring the inseams.
Yes.
And you knew that this soldier, when you were measuring his inseams, was something special.
Not really. No.
All right,
It was just another GI.
move on.
Another GI.
Another GI.
Well, that's not the way Tim saw it.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, I
He had the goo-goo eyes.
had the goo-goo eyes, yep.
All right, so that was 1968.
Yes.
All right, keep going.
Then about in the mid-70s, I was assigned to B Company, 82nd Signal Battalion. I went to lunch at the Red Beret one day, and I had a burger, and I didn't have one of those guys that have beer at lunch, not me.
Yeah, those were the days.
And I looked up at the pool table. Said, "Damn, that guy looks familiar." And it was Jack Lash, my old roommate. And so I went up, said hi to him, and we said hi, and became buddies again, instantly. So another day we're in the Red Beret, and he's drunk on a skunk.
You go there a lot. Anyway, go ahead.
Hey, that's the place. That's
That was
the place.
the Red Beret
In
was the hangout.
74, 75.
I heard all about it. Didn't that burn down? Or was
I don't
it
know.
just torn down?
Torn down, I
It's
think.
not there. All right, so he got drunk.
He got drunk and asked me to drive him home.
Okay.
So I drove him home to Walnut Street, Fayetteville. And knocked on the door. He knocked on the door, took his key out, opened the door. And there was this cutest little woman you ever saw, dressed in a sundress. The hands are at her hips, giving her husband the evil eye. And it was Maria.
Wow. Is that what happened, Maria?
That's what happened.
All right. So you saw Maria again after she did your inseams. And where'd that go after that? What's next?
We started a long-term relationship.
Wait a minute. They were married, though.
It was called an affair in those days.
Yeah.
Well, shit happens.
I left Jack 3 times and went back to him. Kept going back thinking that he was an alcoholic. So I was kind of thinking that he would
Oh,
straighten
Jack
out.
was a drinker. He's still a drinker as far as I know.
He was
All right, so you got to enjoy each other's company
Yes.
more and more.
Yes.
And then you got divorced.
Yes.
Then I got divorced.
That's good. I mean, because you can't have two, well, some do. So you both got divorced and married.
Yes.
And that was in what year?
1982.
82. And this is 2023.
41 years ago.
Wow.
February 27th, 1982.
Wow.
Yep.
So, Anita, how long we been married?
13 years.
Oh, well, we got a few to go.
Got a few to go.
All right, we'll get there.
Yes, I'm sure we will.
We'll get there.
Yes.
We'll get there.
Once you hit 40, you don't forget anymore.
40 years old or 40 years of
But
marriage?
I'm
40 years
sad
of
to say
marriage.
I'm not going to be here for your
That's a
40th
great,
anniversary.
that is a
Don't think
great
we will
story.
either. I
So,
think we will be there either.
so tell me about children, your family. So you've both been married once. This is your second marriage each. And tell me about children.
I had 2 children by my first wife.
Okay,
My oldest son, Justin, and my daughter, Kayla.
okay,
And Maria had Jason with her husband, Jack,
okay.
who I eventually, after we got married,
Adopt.
I adopted him.
Right.
When he was around, I don't know, 11, 12, something like that.
Nice. Good for you.
7.
So there's 3 children.
There's 3, yeah.
Justin, Jason, Kayla.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And they're all going to be here tomorrow.
Yes.
Woohoo!
That's exciting.
I know.
And some of the grandkids.
Oh, that's going to be so cool tomorrow.
Not all of them.
So what do the kids do now? What do they do? Justin, Jason, and Kayla, what do they do?
Justin is a sales engineer for a German company.
Wow, how do you get that job?
He got that job from his job in Bad Axe, Michigan, where he was a tool maker. And he worked his way up through the shop to eventually he was a sales engineer.
Okay.
And then eventually he started going to conventions and conferences, and they started showing people what his company could do. And then the German company contacted him.
Wow, he had a reputation if Germany contacted him.
Yeah. They contacted him and offered him a job. And he's doing great.
Sure sounds like it. And that's where he's working today for that German company now.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Jason is working in a factory in Oscoda, Michigan.
Okay, what's he do?
Makes fuel tubes.
Wow.
He's a factory rat.
The factory.
Proud of it. That's what he calls himself, a factory rat.
That's cool.
But he's
Wow.
been there long.
But he's a good one.
Okay. Yes, he
Yep, he's a
is.
good factory rat.
All right, and Kayla.
And Kayla, she is a registered nurse.
Nice.
Good.
She's in management now. She's been a nurse for about 12, 13 years. She's well in a leadership position.
Nice.
And going to get her master's.
For RN
RN.
progression?
Yeah.
I don't understand. Okay, nice.
She
Nice.
pretty much got to get a master's to move any further ahead.
Gotcha. So back in the day, I'm talking 92-ish when we were together as the command team. Kayla was the one where a young man came to pick her up and we drilled this guy on. What are your intentions with this young lady or something
Yeah,
like that?
yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Aha.
Chased that one away, didn't you?
Well, that's what dads do. I wouldn't want to mess with Tim.
While I was cleaning my gun.
Oh, God.
Polishing your boxing gloves. Oh my God. All right, so here we are. This Anita and I up here in sunny Saginaw, Michigan. Not, but in the house of Tim and Maria London, it is sunny, and I am here talking to Command Sergeant Major Retired Tim Stud London. So Tim, most people know a lot about your background and when you grew up as a young enlisted soldier, etc. But I want to go back to some of the stories that you weren't able to tell me when we were together as a battalion command team. And I want you to just tell me a little bit about when you were in Vietnam with the Mike Force.
That's a good story.
They all are.
When I first joined the Army, I wanted to go into Special Forces. But I had a couple big buts there. Number one, I had to be 18 years old. I was only 17.
Oops.
And number two, you had to be E5 or above, sergeant or above. So I went through training in what I signed up for, radio teletype operator. Fort Gordon, Georgia.
Was that like a 31 Charlie or something?
That was 05C.
05, that's right. 31 is my
And
right.
from there, I went to jump school. I was still 17. And from jump school, I went to 82nd Airborne Division. 3rd of the 320th Artillery. And I came down on levy for Vietnam when I turned 18. You had to be 18 to be in combat.
Was that like the draft?
Well, it was orders.
Okay, gotcha.
They just notified you were going to come down on orders.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Well, went to Vietnam, landed there in Cam Ranh Bay, got off the plane. There was a commercial plane. Hot as a motherfucker.
Okay.
And
I'm not sure how hot that is, but it was really warm.
yeah. I seen a bunch of tables sitting up alongside the runway there, and a bunch of people sitting behind them. And I was told, get in this line here and follow the people up there, and they'll get you your assignment. So
when you went and you got off the plane, you weren't with a certain unit. You got off and were assigned to somebody.
I was only going to Vietnam. That's all I knew.
Gotcha.
And about this time, I saw this great big 6'4", 6'5" guy, shaped like a V, with a green beret on, and a holding up sea ration box that said, Specialist London. And had a clipboard. Must be important, had a clipboard. So I went up to him and I said, you looking for me? And he asked me who I was, and I told him, and he said, I hear you're a radio teletype operator. You graduated first in your class. I said, yes, I did. Kind of proud of that. Says, how would you like to be in Green Berets? And that's how I got in Special Forces. They assigned me to Benoit, A Company headquarters, 5th Special Forces. And I got assigned to this comm center. 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. Comm center, air-conditioned comm center. You know what I was thinking? I hate when tell my grandkids, what'd you do in Vietnam, Granddad? Oh, I worked in the air-conditioned comm center. When I saw these messages all the time, which hell, it's combat for the Mike Force. It was called B-36. So I told my immediate supervisor, I says, if you ever need me to go out the Mike Force, I'd like to go out there sometime.
So, I mean, so what is this? A super secret Special Forces, an elite group within the Special Forces?
I didn't even know what it was at the time.
Gotcha.
I just knew they had a lot of Cambodians and a lot of them got killed. And they killed a lot of bad guys too. And eventually they did send me there. So they sent me on a helicopter. So I landed in the helicopter in the airstrip. And this red-haired guy ran out to the chopper with a little box. And I got off the helicopter, and he ran up to me and he said, "Are you London?" I said, "Yeah." So here's the crypto. Congratulations.
Don't lose it.
And then this red-headed guy later became the first sergeant of B Company, 82nd Signal Battalion, and was my first sergeant.
Whoa.
Jesse McDaniel.
That's pretty cool.
I didn't recognize him immediately, but through the years, eventually I figured it out. And the Mike Force was nicknamed for Mobile Strike Force Command. There was 3 of them in Vietnam in SF. 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Mobile Strike Force Command. I was in 3rd Mobile Strike Force Command, located at B-36 Long High, Vietnam. And I got right back into another comm center, called the radio bunker back then, not comm center. And
so being in the Mike Force, you worked in the comm center, but did this elite unit that you were a part of, the 3rd Mike Force, did you ever go out on any combat missions with them, or did you stay to communicate to make sure command and control stayed squared away? Or both?
Primarily I was a radio teletype operator, but
okay.
I asked my boss, eventually they let me go out, a couple training missions, they call them that. See, my commander was, at the time, Major Lee Mize. He had won the Medal of Honor in Korean War, as an E7. And he was one of these guys, he liked letting people do what they wanted to do. And eventually I went out on this, we had our mission changed. We changed from Mike Force to Long High Training Detachment. And we trained Cambodians, and we sent Cambodians back to Cambodia fully equipped and trained with M16s, claymores, all that stuff, and they knew how to use it. And when one of their training missions, the Long High Training Detachment, I was sent out on. And my one and only combat story, my first day out, these guys, walking through the jungle with a rucksack, radio in, of course, radio man. And we had bivouacked that for the night. Well, in Vietnam, you stay off the ground. There's nasty stuff down there in the ground. You know, it bites you and stuff. So I tied my hammock up between 2 trees, and I dug myself a fighting position below the hammock. And I struck stretched my poncho out over top, like a little high tent. And I never could sleep in a hammock. I wasn't in their hammock very long, and all hell has this explosions, rifle fire, you name it. Tracers going off across the perimeter. He says, well, it's all hell broke loose. And it rained in the middle of the night. And I was dry. I was a poncho. But at M16, I crossed my chest. It says, call to action. So I rolled over to get out of the hammock, went right into the fighting position full of water.
Not funny. Okay, go.
I immediately got totally 100% soaked. It was Vietnam, though. It was warm water. And my commander at that time was after the Medal of Honor winner. He had not got a CIB yet. Well, he was out there too. He wanted the CIB. But he figured if he's going to get a CIB, he better make sure everybody else out there got one. Well, here's our radio teletop operator, Tim London, submitted for a CIB, Combat Infantry Badge. That's how I got my CIB.
Sweet. So I heard one of your folks said a story that in order to or to prevent you from getting killed or captured, you'd hide under a lot of dead Vietnamese. Is that a true story?
Total bullshit.
Okay. All right.
We got drunk one night.
Oh, I'm shocked.
And other things, and I told his story of the friend of mine, John Owens. And John Owens got sent out to CCN. John was a Special Forces qualified guy, so he could go just about anywhere in Vietnam. And Owens came up, called me up one day in a field telephone, and he told me this story about being assigned to Command and Control North, CCN, which is northern Vietnam. A bunch of bad guys live up there, yeah. And his first mission was, he was repelled out of a helicopter onto an enemy bunker. And this happened to John. That didn't happen to me.
Ah.
And the
plot thickens.
Yes. And John Owens later came back to the Mike Force. No. He wasn't in the Mike Force when he went to CCN. I knew him in Benoit, A Company. And he went from Benoit to CCN, from CCN to the Mike Force. So we're at Rang Rang, Vietnam, right on the Cambodian border. And we had a real rough time communicating out of this one spot. Must have been a lot of iron in the ground or something like that. And so I put together my brains and came up with this idea, a field expedient 2902 antenna. I knew how to make one. So I made it. And I went out there and climbed up a tree where we were having the problems talking from, hung the antenna from, and this terrible explosion, this gut-wrenching explosion happened just maybe 200 yards away. I was down that tree at heartbeat. Everybody was running towards the sound. And I ran into John Owens running towards me, holding his eye. He had lost his eye. A captain by the name of Fox, Captain Fox, we had the Mike Force had found a large cache of weapons, North Vietnamese weapons. Here the women are.
Somebody at the door.
Yeah, Maria,
Oh, Maria. Right.
and Anita. And he ran across this giant cache of weapons, SKSs, and he started throwing the weapons out of the hole, and it was booby trapped.
Oh man.
And needless to say, he died. But
Oh man. So you came back out of Vietnam, and is that where you met Art Dewar and you started the boxing, or tell me about that? How's that connect?
when I was 15, my dad got a job in Bay City, Michigan, right where we're sitting. And my dad had boxed in the Navy. My grandfather had boxed professionally a little bit. So I always wanted to be a boxer. I heard that Bay City had a Gold Gloves team. And I found out where they were training at.
So you were when you came back out of Vietnam, you got out of the Army.
I got out of the Army.
Came back home. Okay, go ahead.
In the
Gotcha.
active reserves.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
And I was basically out of the Army. And I went to the gym, introduced myself to the coach, and asked him if I could join the team. And he says, "How old are you, boy?" I said 15. He says, "Well, you got to be 16 to be in the Gold Gloves. That's national rule." Okay, I'll come back when I'm 16. The next day, I turned 16.
Yeah, bullshit. Okay, go ahead.
And I went back there, told him I was 16. He put me through a workout, got my shit kicked out of me a little bit. Guys actually had some training. And eventually I made the Bay City Gold Gloves team. And eventually I got regional champion in Saginaw, 132 lightweight. Now, that was before I was in the Army. So I got lost there.
No, you're good. You're good. Keep going. So you came out, you turned 16, but then after that is when you went in the Army in Vietnam.
Yes.
Okay.
When I turned 17.
Right. So then you came out of Vietnam and you joined the reserves and you came back here and you continued boxing.
One day, my company commander in the reserves called me up. I was registered and everything. He said, "London," he says, "you know, everybody wants to be in my unit. Nobody wants to go to Vietnam.
You want to be a boxer?
You just came from Vietnam. How would you like me to carry you on my route rolls? Yet you don't attend any meetings, you don't take any training." And basically, that was it. I didn't go to reserve meetings for anything.
They gave you special treatment because you were a special guy.
Yeah, I was combat vet.
There you go.
And
Good
then,
enough for me.
Me and my best friend Wayne, he was my best friend by the time we were about 16. We started talking about joining the Navy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, originally. And we turned 17, and we went in the Navy recruiter here in Bay City. Walked in there one day, fresh as the daisy, and I told him I want to join the Navy. My dad was in the Navy, so I followed my dad's footsteps. And Navy recruiter
Told me a lie.
He looks at me, he says, "Boys, I got bad news for you." Says, "For one thing, You can't get in the Navy unless you're 18 or a high school graduate. Both of us had dropped out of high school.
Okay.
I'm going to walk you down the hallway, introduce you to my friend down here, the Army recruiter.
The Army said, yeah, a little different standards.
Yeah, a little different standards.
Guessing.
They took 17-year-olds, high school dropouts, anybody straight out of prison. They didn't care. And the rest, as far as getting in the Mike Force, I told you.
Okay.
And
so you were in the reserves. You came back to Bay City. You were boxing. What happened where you continued to re-up to join the active forces again?
well,
How'd that happen?
one time I had a boxing match in Flint, Michigan. And the Flint boxing coach hollered at me from inside the ring. Said, "London, weren't you in the Army?" I says, "Yeah, I was a paratrooper." He says, "That means you must have been stationed at Fort Bragg." I says, yeah, sure. He says, "If you ever go back to Fort Bragg, come look me up." And I couldn't get that thought out of my mind. I went, a couple weeks later, I went to a recruiter, joined the Army all over again, started over again as a PFC.
Fort Bragg was on your mind.
Fort boxing team was on my mind.
Okay. All right.
I joined the Army for the second time simply for one thing, to box for the Army. Now, I went to Fort Bragg and I got there and I went straight to the boxing arena. And this boxing arena, it's got these great big double doors opening up and the sun shines in there. And anybody walking in there, you're blinded by the sun. You can see the sun behind this person. And there was the same coach, Flint coach, standing in the middle of the ring saying, "London, what took you so long?" He was a Fort Bragg boxing coach.
That's incredible.
And I made the team.
Oh, shocked.
And eventually, I didn't get promoted, though. They wouldn't promote with the E4 in my unit. My platoon sergeant said he wanted to see me. Didn't promote anybody he couldn't see. And I was always over at the boxing arena. Billy L. Crosby was his name. So in '74, the second year I was on that Fort Bragg boxing team, I decided to give it up and go back regular Army. I went back in my unit.
Which was B Company?
B Company, 82nd Signal Battalion.
And that was Ray Dolan was a company commander still at the time? Or he had left?
Yeah, he was there. He's still there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Other commanders I had at B Company, you may know, Arthur Hayes, Billy Burse.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, Bill and I changed command at 35th.
Yeah.
I took it from him.
Yeah.
Good man, Bill Burse.
He was a great company commander, too.
Mm-hmm.
He was the most efficient guy I ever knew.
He was good.
He used to do Article 15s all in one day. He'd have them all laid up on his desk, one after the other, number 1, 2, 3, 4, and he'd call them in one at a time, and he'd read them Article 15, and I like him.
Yeah. Good
I liked them all.
So Art Doer, tell me some stories about him. He seemed to be a pretty influential person in your life.
Art Dorr was one of the sponsors for the Bay City Gold Gloves.
Okay.
He bought our gloves and hand wraps and stuff like that, mouthpieces.
Is he the one that bought your jacket as well?
Yes.
Okay.
that first year I boxed, he bought us all a jacket. I was proud of that jacket. Oh, man.
Well, you should be. You earned it.
I haven't seen it in years.
Is Art the one that owned all the bars?
Yeah, Art Dorr
Tell me some a little bit
was
about him.
was an entrepreneur here in Bay City, Michigan. He'd just buy up property and turn it into a bar, or buy a bar and just for the license. And he owned half the town. And Art Dorr and Dean Oswald, the Golden Gloves coach, started the Tough Man contest.
Okay.
And that was nationally known. It was on TV a few times.
This is when you told me earlier this morning about your smallest in size brother.
Yeah, little brother, yeah.
Little brother participated one time in that.
Yes.
And
He got drunk and went to the Tough Man contest, and he says, let me fight.
And how'd that turn out?
He got his ass kicked.
Oh, well.
He assumed because his last name was London that he could fight, because he got drunk every Saturday night and felt like fighting.
Aha.
But years later, I was at my brother's daughter's, my niece's wedding. My brother was there. Walked her down the aisle, and it was at the reception at the Lumber Baron Bar on Midland Street in Bay City here.
We're down there.
And Art Dorr was in there. And my friend Wayne, who joined the Army with me, said, "Hey, Tim, Art Dorr's here. I'm going to bring him down here. Say hi." I said, "Okay." So I said hi to Art. And while I was talking to Art Dorr, my brother walked up in his tux and everything. And
5'2".
5'2", yeah. "Art, you remember my brother Dave?" And immediately, in less than half a second, said, "The littlest tough man."
Nice.
And that felt pretty good. It felt pretty good. You remember that after all those years.
That's awesome. So, as you went through the ranks and went back to the 82nd Signal Battalion, you were in charge of some event where you were sort of in the gray area of transporting some bottles. How did that turn out? What was that about?
Well, Sergeant Major Leo Greenhouse made me the battalion 82nd Airborne Association chapter secretary.
So Sergeant Major Greenhouse was the battalion sergeant major, and at the time, Lieutenant Colonel Leo Chowdge was the battalion commander.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. There was a convention that year in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Okay.
And I drove, both of us there. Got to the Sheraton Hotel, or wherever it was. At the end of the convention, each battalion got so much liquor for the hospitality house. Well, we got to keep it all.
From the association.
From the association, yeah.
Okay.
So
I'm shocked that there was alcohol involved, but go ahead.
we transported about 65 bottles of hard liquor in my trunk.
Not 64, 66. It was 65.
65.
All right. I'll make sure the date is right.
From
The date
Indianapolis,
is right.
Indiana to Fayetteville, Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Bottles rattling the whole way.
So you drove across lines with all this liquor.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Then Sergeant Major Greenhouse decides he wants to hold a membership drive.
Ah, important. Important to have
Yes.
all your soldiers in the association.
Yes.
All right.
I knew some people that ran in Red Beret, so I could go talk to them and see if I furnish the liquor. I told them the deal. They had to show their card, membership card, to get a free drink. And the sergeant major sat in the front door and sold membership cards. And these were the drunkest people you ever saw in your life. Most of them didn't make it out of the Red Beret without puking. 18, 19-year-old kids, you know.
Free drink, free booze, hard liquor. All they had to do was join the association.
Yeah,
I mean,
that was it. $5.
How hard is that? I mean, come on. You got to be creative when you do these membership drives.
The next year, Sergeant Major Greenhouse wanted to do another membership drive.
All right, tell me about that.
He wanted a dancing girl in the mess hall. Well, this so happened, I knew this girl whose best friend was a dancer down in Fayetteville.
I'm shocked you had that connection.
Rick's
Anyway.
Lounge.
All right, Rick's Lounge.
Yep.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Davita. Davita was her name.
Aha.
I talked to Davita and I told her the deal. And she showed up at lunchtime, or whatever time it was, with a boombox and a bikini.
In the dining facility.
Yes.
All right, and everyone sort of had an appetite by then.
And the same thing happened. You could get in the mess hall with being a member of 82nd Association.
Or-
you couldn't get in there if you were not a member.
But you could buy a membership at the door and be.
Oh, yes.
And go through. Oh, yeah.
Sergeant Major will sell you in a heartbeat.
Oh, back in the day.
And Davita's picture, last I heard, was still taped to the outside of the B Company orderly room window.
Okay. And who asked you about that?
Paul Schrader.
He wanted to know whose mother that was or something like that.
He asked, who the hell's picture is a woman is that taped to the outside of the glass of B Company orderly room? And I told him the whole story. Of course, he cracked up. I'll tell you another story. Paul Schrader and his wife, Tricia.
Who made that
They
lovely
met, and
quilt right
they
there.
met. They were in 50th Signal Battalion. My best friend in 82nd Signal Battalion was a guy named Dave Hornell. Dave Hornell matched them up.
Oh, okay.
My buddy hooked them up, and they're married to this day.
They're still married today.
Yep.
And she really makes some nice items like that quilt that Maria.
Hold up that, honey.
Gonna turn it around this way.
Oh, yeah.
Patricia made that, yeah, by hand.
Oh, my gosh. Yes, that's exquisite.
And
Wow.
she gave it to me.
Of course.
Well, yeah.
As it should be. And she gave it to you, and now Maria has it. Of course. That's the way it works.
Paul and Tricia always had a soft spot in their hearts because when Paul came back from the weekend, he said he got married that weekend.
Oh, wow.
And in my office, and I said, "You got married?" I said, "Did you have a reception?" He says, "No, we just got married." And I said, "I'm going to throw you a reception." So we had his wedding reception
So you got
in
the
our
dancing
quarters
at
at Fort Bragg. We had a dollar dance and everything.
Yeah.
She threw the garter, everything.
Nice. Good for you. Well, you always took care of soldiers.
Yeah.
One of the many things you.
A couple of my
do.
two of my favorite people there.
Yeah, for sure. Wow.
And after I knew him, found out that Dave Hornell introduced him. The end of the world came, might as well. I was going crazy with that because Dave Hornell had died a few years back.
Okay.
And I never got to see him again. And he set him up in a blind date. And they're married for 30 years by now.
Still today. So now let's continue on the journey from the Signal Battalion and a E5, E6 rank, and then you went overseas, you went to Italy, so on. But then you came into JCU, and how did all that come about? And make sure you mention my name. Okay, go ahead.
I was in B Company, 82nd Signal Battalion,
Okay.
for a long, long time. Like 10 years, you know. And I was from E5 to E7 in the same company. But I was in every platoon in that company.
Oh, wow.
And
Couldn't
finally, I says,
couldn't hold a job.
if I'm going to get promoted in this army, I got to have diversified assignments. I got to at least go overseas somewhere besides Vietnam. So I volunteered for Vietnam, or for Germany. And I got orders for Germany. And, well, first, our S3 officer, Major Clegg, went to Germany.
Major Clegg, that sounds familiar.
Yes, you probably know.
Yeah.
And he became battalion commander of 97th Signal Battalion in Germany.
Where was that? Where was that? That sounds familiar.
Mannheim.
Oh, was it Mannheim? Okay.
And,
97th, yeah, okay.
He wrote my first sergeant a letter saying, I need good NCOs over here. Well, of course, he wanted the first sergeant. First sergeant didn't want to leave anywhere. And I heard about that. I says, I'll do that. So
I mean,
I signed up for Germany.
Oktoberfest, good beer, schnitzel.
I went to Germany, got assigned to Germany, 97th Signal Battalion, Colonel Clegg, Lieutenant Colonel Clegg,
Right.
battalion commander.
That name's familiar.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a funny story. They assigned me to A Company, 97th Signal Battalion, when I first got there, because of my background in radio teletype, HF platoon. And the first day I'm in the unit, company commander calls me in his office, starts chewing my ass up and down.
I'm sure you deserved it. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I deserved it. Sergeant London, your first day here, and one of your guys killed somebody downtown.
Oh, jeez.
I had a guy in my platoon kill somebody in downtown Mannheim with an ice pick.
Oh, gosh.
And eventually I went to Charlie Company. That was the go-to company.
They had no murders.
I got good to go. Got along good with Colonel Clegg and the Sergeant Major and all those people.
Okay.
And I said, I want some more challenges, and they sent me to Charlie Company, the biggest platoon in the battalion. CTCP platoon, Command Terminal Cable Platoon. And
What
we
the heck
had
is that?
we had a bunch of VHF equipment. UHF, VHF, multi-channel stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They sent me to Bastogne. Bastogne? Where's that schools? Where's the schools?
No. Oh, man, I know where you're talking about. Oh, crap. I went to that school, too. I was the honor grad.
The only grad.
Where was it? Well, maybe that's true. It was up on the Switzerland border. It was in.
Yes, right there in the border.
It was an SF compound.
Yeah.
Bad. Oh, I'll think of it. All right, so I know where you mean, but go ahead. What rank were you
I
at?
went to a multi-channel. I was E7 now, Sergeant First Class.
Okay, what year was this?
This was 1982.
82. Okay, got it. 82.
And I went to that school, and they taught me all about multi-channel radios. They just taught totally functional, no theory. Just this is what you do. If this happens, it fix stuff. You gotta troubleshoot this way, and this is this, and I got pretty good at it. So when I went to Charlie Company, I had all the same equipment I got trained on.
Nice.
And I became the lead troubleshooter of the battalion.
Wow.
They sent me all over 2 a.m. I had 2 drivers because one couldn't stay awake enough.
That's not good.
So there's some of those M880s pickups.
Yeah. Chrysler Corporation.
Yeah.
I think, right?
Camouflage pickup.
Yeah, those were dogs. They got stuck
And
on
they drive
leaves.
me all over Germany.
Wet leaves they got stuck on. Oh, that was a dog vehicle fleet.
One place, in Kaiserslautern, K-Town, Tiger 27, we had these towers. We called them SIP towers, CIP, Communication Improvement Program. And they all had civilian antennas on them. But we weren't supposed to use them. We weren't trained to use them. But all of a sudden, I got told I put my radio horn on the top of one of these towers, and it was a tall tower, man. It was maybe 150 feet in the air. It was gigantic.
But there were only civilian antennas. There were no military.
No military up there. I took our
Until you
military VHF antenna,
That was illegal, right?
illegal as hell,
Yeah. Okay. Good. All right.
and strapped it up there. The way we used to get up there, they used to have this harness they wrapped around your waist and stuck it to a ladder. Climbed up this ladder, and you pulled up, and obviously you weren't going to fall to the floor if you fell. And then when I got up to the top, they had this bar going all the way around the top of these towers, and it's hooked the same thing to that. So the wind was 100 miles an hour up there, and I was having problems with this antenna.
You go up by yourself or with a team of two, or
Nobody wanted to go up there.
well, how'd you get the antenna up by your? I mean, you didn't carry it on under your arm.
Well,
They hoisted it up on the side with a rope.
I put it up there, the platoon sergeant, and none of my guys would go up there. So they sent me to the school to learn how to climb the tower.
Oh,
So I became the battalion tower climbing instructor.
well, that's illegal as shit. All right, have some coffee. Want some
Yeah.
coffee? Yeah, get a swig of that. So you got it mounted.
I got him out.
Illegally.
We could talk to anybody in Germany that these were so tall, like quarter mile up in the air. Jesus, they're made by cement, and
Wow.
they were fancy things. And so I trained all my guys how to climb the tower. Eventually, I wasn't the only one to go up there,
Okay.
and I was a tower expert for 97 Signal Battalion.
So where'd your journey go after that? Remember my name, okay?
I got a phone call one day when a guy was with B Company, 82nd Signal Battalion, Jim Parton.
AKA Dolly.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Okay, sorry. to
Well,
interrupt.
Jim, he came over to see me. We had a cigar together and a cup of coffee, and he said, "Man, Tim,"
Now you're in Germany. He was in Germany as well.
he was visiting in Germany.
Ah, gotcha.
He was
Okay.
TDY or something.
Boondoggle.
Sitting in my office down there, platoon line check, and he told me about this unit he was in. And Ray Dolan was the commander, Major Ray Dolan. And Captain Rock Schmidt was the section leader.
Foe. Field
Oh.
operations element.
Yes.
I was the foe commander.
He
Foe
said,
mofo. I
He
was
said-
the mofo.
he said, "You could probably get in that thing, Tim." And so I started thinking about it. I go, "Geez, I guess I could." So I says, "Jim, why don't you try to get me in that unit?" And well, he was a good friend, so he could talk to some people when he got back. And finally, I was contacted by Major Dolan, commander, and he knew me, of course, because I was in a boxing team with
Right, when he was a
company commander. Yeah.
Of course.
And I'm blank again.
Well, you got orders. You came back and you went to.
I got assigned to JCU
Right.
in December 1984. I had not finished up my assignment in Germany, my complete 36-month assignment. They hadn't given me credit for an overseas tour.
Oh wow.
So
Bastards.
I got assigned to JCU, Joint Communications Unit. I met Rock Schmidt. Now,
one each.
it seems that Jim Parton, the first day he was assigned to the unit, he told him his name. He said Jim Parton. They said Dolly. Ed Eswine gave him that name.
Ed Eswine, good man too.
Yeah.
Ed Eswine,
And
another SF guy.
yeah,
Yeah. So you were, I mean, I remember that. Golly. I think I had a couple E8s, but mostly E7s. But were you in charge? I think we had 5 elements I was in charge of in FO, the field ops, 5 different
5,
sections.
yeah. 5 teams.
In 5 teams. And you were, I think you were in charge of 1.
I was in charge of Team 5.
Okay.
And eventually, it reorganized into A section, and I became the section chief.
Okay.
And they put 2 or 3 teams together to make A section.
Okay. So what were some of the things that we went out on in '84? Excuse me, some of the terrorists, now it's all unclassified, but I'm trying to remember when I was the commander versus when I was a captain, what the different ones we went out on. Did we go out on the Achille Laurel? Was that when we went after Aboni Dal?
Yes.
And that was when we chased him to an Italian airfield and had him pinned in the aircraft. The Italians had us pinned when our C-141, and we couldn't move. And everybody was locked and loaded. Then Aboni Dal, well, we were on the radios with the State Department to try to negotiate this stalemate, and somehow they gave this freaking terrorist criminal a plane, and then we got a plane, and we needed a radio operator to chase him to see what would happen, and JSOC put Johnny Reitzel on that.
Yeah.
And I assigned you with a SATCOM radio and antenna from JCU to go on that plane and chase him, and they both took off.
We took off on the taxiway, if I remember correctly.
Took off on a taxiway, not a runway.
And remember, we were Bucky Burris, Colonel Bucky Burris from Delta was on the same plane.
Okay.
Sergeant Major Caton from JSOC was on the same plane.
It was a JSOC sergeant major.
And
Caton.
General Steiner. And that was exciting.
That was exciting. We had some exciting stuff we did, no doubt. So from JCU, from an E7, you went to Italy and got promoted to E8 or something like that.
I made E8 in JCU.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, shit.
That's why you guys made me a section chief.
Hopefully, well, I guess I didn't promote you. Probably Ray did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So from JCU as an E8, then you went out to Italy. You went to Italy.
No.
Okay. Where'd you go next?
I went back to 82nd Signal Battalion. Ray Dolan had told me he had a first sergeant job for me. Little did I know that lieutenant colonels didn't decide who the sergeant major or the first sergeant was going to be. Those things were decided by a lot smarter people than them, and sergeant majors and stuff like that.
Oh, that I know. That's another story.
And when I got to 82nd Signal Battalion, I reported in all that. Sergeant Major Bill Moore was a battalion sergeant major. And he assigned me as a battalion S3 sergeant. operations sergeant.
The NCOIC of the 3 shop.
Yeah. Where I worked my ass off.
Oh, I'll bet you did. Oof.
15, 16-hour days.
So Ray Dolan lied to you.
No.
Oh, okay.
Only problem was there was no first sergeant jobs open when I got there.
Oh, Ray.
He had been thinking about B Company,
Ray. Little
but B Company got filled while I was in Italy,
Oh, okay.
while I was in JCU.
Okay.
And then one day, Bill Moore calls me into his office. He said, "London, what am I going to do with you? I got another orders for you. This time for Turkey." I don't want to go. I don't want you to go to Turkey. You're my first sergeant. You know, said, well, last week it got you out to Italy. So the mistake I made was coming home and telling my wife I had orders for Italy.
That didn't go over, did it?
Oh, she wanted to go to Italy bad. And I went back to Sergeant Major Moore.
On your knees. Give me those orders back for Italy.
Yeah. I'd like to go to Italy, Sergeant Major. And that's how I got to Italy.
Okay.
And
so then, in the meantime, I got promoted in Korea to lieutenant colonel, and subsequently made the battalion command list. And then after that, my pinpoint was the 82nd Signal Battalion.
Weren't you in Turkey?
Well, that was my last assignment in the Army.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, years later in 04. So when I made the battalion command list after getting promoted in Korea to 05, then you and I continued like very frequently because I wanted you as my battalion sergeant major.
And I wanted to do that bad.
And but again, the thing was you hadn't gone to the sergeant's major academy. Well, obviously,
That was my dream job, yeah.
right.
And I couldn't be CSM without being attending the academy.
Right.
And I had turned down the academy the year before. But the E9 promotion board called me up in Italy and said, "Sergeant London, the board wants to know if you're promoted to CSM, will you go to the Sergeant Major's Academy?" Yeah. I immediately knew I made E9, Sergeant Major. And then a few days later, First Sergeant called me in and said, "Not only did you make Sergeant Major, you made Command Sergeant Major." My phone rang. It was Rock Schmidt. Offered me a job.
One each.
I couldn't turn one. Offered me, made me a proposal I couldn't turn down.
And thousands of soldiers and their families benefited from you being there.
Damn right, especially me.
We got there within 2 days after I took command. You came in 2 days later.
Yeah.
It was a great, clean start. I didn't go through one, sergeant major and then get another one later on in my command. It was just a great 2 years right from the get-go. Just couldn't have been more cleaner. It was great. And with that, we're going to take a break. Hey, we'll be right back after a short break.